Kevin Jeffrey with Know Your Rights with former Deputy Police Chief of the Palm Bay Police Department, Lance Fisher. And Lance, tonight we want to consider what do you do concerning the flock cameras. So if you're a citizen and if you don't know about it, you have the flock cameras that as you go through, they're able to surveil your information and be able to keep this information, depending on what state you're in, anywhere from 21 to 90 days. They are able to track you where you're going throughout the city. You were responsible, you say, for bringing it into this area. Tell us about it, and then tell us what can citizens do to protect themselves against it.
Yeah, and I think it was 2017, 2019. I get a phone call from Garrett Langley. He's the founder and CEO of Flock. He was trying to get into Florida, couldn't get into Florida. He offered me 7 cameras, and we put them in like a small area. And at the time, Chief Nelson Moya was our chief, and he has the same concerns we're talking about today: surveillance of citizens, things like that. There was all kinds of concerns. If this camera's out in front of my house, is it gonna show me coming and going from my house like a constant reel? Which it's not. It takes pictures. And so he made us literally go door to door in the neighborhood, asking people, "Hey, what are your thoughts on all this?" And literally, he had just called me and said, "We're not getting Flock. We're just not going to be able to do it." And then I get an email from the city manager, Suzanne Sherman, "Hey, we're good to go on Flock." So it was that. I mean, it was just that teetered. But the thing was, we were transparent then, and we met with our community in that small area. Since then, the last I knew, we were at 30-some Flock cameras. I don't know where we're at now.
Throughout Palm Bay.
Throughout Palm Bay. Well, they were all over Florida. After we exploded them, and we got West Melbourne on, we got Melbourne on, because the more Flock cameras you have, the more they track you, right? Because now I can track you if you go into Melbourne.
So they're pinging you everywhere you go.
Oh, if you come in and out of Palm Bay, we're going to know you're here.
So the question is, and as we consider this, you hear people say, then we know that you must be a criminal because you question the Flock cameras. I can't track with the reasoning of that. That's illogical to me. It doesn't make any sense. What do you think of that?
No, it doesn't make any sense. And I've said this. It doesn't affect you until it affects you. We've seen cases now that families that the Flock camera gives out a bad tag. Because I saw something where it's like 95% reliable or something like that, because it can put out a bad tag. And
we know that has happened in other places.
I saw something this week where a family was going to Walmart. They go in there, an officer pulls them over. The Flock gave this alert that the vehicle is stolen, and they're all laying on the hot pavement up in,
Colorado, I think
it was Colorado, right? And I think the city paid a couple $1 million to this family because of it. And so that's the problem. And the problem is that, so these weren't designed, when we talked about these, and we talked about bringing them to Palm Bay at least, it was supposed to be a tool to combat crime. If there was a homicide, right, we could go back to the Flock camera and research a time period, a small time period. This wasn't designed to track Lance Fisher all over Palm Bay, but that's what it's turned into. And then you hear all these articles, and I don't know a whole lot about them, but how people's information is being sold at third party. I know there's companies out there, Home Depots, Lowe's now are going with them, because you know why? Because they can now track your spending habits, right? And I think what you hear is, oh, well, you're in the public, you don't have a right to privacy.
That's one of the main arguments.
And to me, I'm like, until you're the person sizzling on the hot pavement, right?
But there's a difference though between me going to Home Depot, which I make a choice to do.
Yeah,
if I understand that they have Flock cameras there, I just say I don't want to go to Home Depot. And the government having access to that information and being able to surveil openly citizens. Am I not correct?
No, you're correct, because it takes, for us to put a tracker on a vehicle, it takes a court order. We have to go through a process, show that there's probable cause, there's a reason we're going to track these people. With Flock, you don't. And you can track them throughout. That's the way certain municipalities have set it up. They've strategically set their cameras up. Like I said, if you come into Palm Bay, I know you're here, and when you leave, I know you leave. So if they want to say, is Lance Fisher in Palm Bay, let's go to our Flock cameras. They'll put in my tag or
But they can do this without a warrant.
They can do it without a warrant. And probably the more disturbing part is they can do it, and there's no accountability for it. And what I would encourage the public to do, if you have any questions about whatever jurisdiction you're in, because I think Titusville's,
Titusville, I think has 16 of them.
I think honestly everybody, but maybe the sheriff's department has Flock in Brevard County, or we're getting there. Go to your police department and do a public records request for the policy on Flock. Find out, is there a mechanism to deter abuse or even recognize abuse? If an officer is running their foes or their friends, their ex-wives, their ex-girlfriends, or their current wife or girlfriend to find out what they're doing. Is there a mechanism in place that says, is there an audit? Can they go audit Lance Fisher and see how many times did I go into the flock and who was I tracking?
But as you know, there is none that we know of, right? There's no accountability that we know of.
When I left, at least Palm Bay had no mechanism in place. So David comes in and they do audits. So that's your driver's license and your registration information. So they would do a random audit. They would pull out so many officers out of a pool, and they would look at their 30 days, 60 days, whatever they did, and they would look at all the driver's license that I ran through David. And that way they would look, was I running Lance Fisher, another Fisher, a Fisher, a Fisher? Why does he run all his family members? Was he running this certain house? Was he running these people? Did Lance Fisher file a complaint? And now all of a sudden he's being ran by Flock. And so there was no mechanism in place from when I left the police department.
So there is no audit. There's nothing then to prevent fraud.
There wasn't when I left.
So each citizen can go to their city council or their city, probably the police department, right?
Yep.
And do a public records request to see if these things are in place.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, pull the policy, read it. I mean, are they designed for? Is it specific for criminal investigations, or can, like we saw in the Tamara Hatcher case, can an officer go in there and I want to see every traffic violation, I want to see suspended license, I want to see this, because officers can select what they want the alerts on.
So they're creating crimes after the fact. Is that the potential that you can actually charge somebody with a crime after the fact?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like they went through when Tamara Hatcher's vehicle, or not even her vehicle, when her boyfriend's vehicle went through the flock, it said the owner of this vehicle is suspended, even though that owner was not anywhere near the vehicle, wasn't driving, wasn't a passenger. Yet they pulled the car over, and we know what happened from there. And that's the problem, because these officers, if they put in the report that they got a flock hit alert. So, so they were monitoring traffic violations instead of focusing on the real intent of them. The intent of them was catch burglars and stolen vehicles. That was the intent, and murder.
So are there any legal protections for the citizen against flock?
Currently?
Can you ask for your plate to be opted out? Can you? I know there's a lot of things that are making its way through the court now. There's a lot of cases on flock that are making its way through the court cases, and so we've had some cases that were actually talked about, and which there's a case in Virginia, there's a case in North Carolina that is making its way through the court now concerning flock, and this last one, this was actually regarding cell phones, but some people believe it's going to be the case that affects flock. And this was Carpenter versus the United States in 2018. The Supreme Court ruled that long-term location tracking via cell phone data is search under the Fourth Amendment. That means you have to get a warrant. Requiring a warrant, courts in places like Norfolk, Virginia, and Illinois have drawn parallels to Flock's ALPR systems, noting that the aggregate location data from hundreds of cameras create a digital mosaic of a person's private life, potentially requiring a warrant.
Yeah, and that's the problem. The more cameras you put up, the more you're tracked. There's some technology out there that they can actually, almost the same identical stuff, and I have to do more research on it, but I would go to conferences, and there was the same kind of technology that for Flock, for these cameras, that will do the same thing for your cell phone. So if Flock will hone in on what vehicle went through there, and you had the secondary device that does the same thing basically for cell phones, it can literally tell you what cell phones were in the car when it drove by. That's what they used. I mean, that's what your big retail people, that's how they find out your shopping habits. That's how they find out all this stuff. I mean, how many times have you said something obscure and the next thing you know, you got an ad for it on your phone?
Oh, it happens quite a bit.
And now when the government's doing that, that's different, right?
Oh, it's different when a company is doing
Correct.
it. And that's the thing, is the danger is when the government has that kind of control and power, it never ends well. Never. It never ends well.
No, because you remember, I was on the other side of this. So I know that we had, I'll just say agitators, people that were vocal about the police department, vocal about the school board, right? And we were tracking them by Flock. We could tell when they left their house, when they didn't. And don't forget, there are mobile components too. We've attached those to speed limit signs. We've attached them to the radar trailers. So if we think this house is a problem for whatever reason, we can put a Flock right near their house.
And that becomes a subjective thing, right? So a lot of people thought that the agitators at the school board were radicals and that they needed to be gotten rid of.
Right.
I mean, they saw these people as insurrectionists. I mean, this once the government has this kind of power, then it becomes a subjective thing, and we're on a slippery slope here.
And only because an officer reached out to me this week, there is some good behind it, right? And we've talked
Sure,
about that.
of course.
And that's how I justified it all. Within 8 hours after our initial trial run, I think it was on December 23rd, either 2017 or 2019, we had a homicide. That was solved only because of flock. It was a random, and the only reason we solved it is because we got the vehicle. But on the hindsight, how many people we stepped on along the way? And again, I believe that if it was used for the purpose, if there was a crime, we go in and we look at that small specific time frame, and we only pull out a suspect vehicle or something like that. But that's not what it was designed for. And you know now you can just randomly pull up anybody's tag. Hey, did they go through a flock camera? They can go in there and put my tag in there. What flock cameras has he been through in the last 30 days?
Yeah, it's very interesting. And so on this Know Your Rights, we wanted you to know that you are being surveilled, and there's an opportunity for you to find out about it by going to your local officials, particularly your police department, and doing a public records request to see what is happening with flock. Is it being audited? Is flock being audited? Is there any policy regarding flock? And so that you can know, and hopefully, actually, you can go to your city council, and most of the city councils can get rid of this, can't they?
They can, but again, right? We always talk about public safety. So they're hearing from your police chiefs and your next chief, and they're going to promote this. Why? Because it's a force multiplier. So they're only going to say, "Oh, this is how many missing people we found." They're not going to tell you about all the families that they yanked out of cars, the windows that they smashed, and the doors they kicked in, and the people they choked because of flock. They're only going to tell you the success stories. And so your council people, when they hear success stories about public safety, because if you're not for public safety, you're for defund the police, and you know how that goes, Kevin. You just one or the other. You can't.
It's either you're on one side or the other, and this is craziness to me. All right, thanks, Lance, for being on Know Your Rights, and hopefully you enjoyed this segment, and we'll see you next time on Know Your Rights.
Thank you, Kevin.